Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Thank you very much for everyone for joining us this afternoon on our online program, Poetry Africa 2024, of course, available to all of you around the world via your screens. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm really excited about today's session, which talks about and to works that have been published by independent publishers. We have a lineup of poets that I personally have had the pleasure of interacting with, but also whose work I have read and experienced over the last few years personally. And I am really honored to sit in the space and to be able to, one, introduce them to you, but also to talk about the work that they have done, and in particular, the work that they have done through independent publishers. I would like for you guys to please, wherever you are in the world, put your hands together and welcome to the screen, please, Salimah Valiani, all the way from Calgary, currently out in Canada.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Quaz.
There you are. Welcome, Salimah. Salimah is a poet, an activist, independent researcher, and visiting lecturer at the Center for Researching Education and Labor at the University of the Witwatersrand. She was born in Calgary, Canada, of a Ugandan mother and Tanzanian father, and began writing in 1977 at the age of 7. 7 seems to be playing a big role there, Salimah. I don't know if you've explored that. And she wrote in both English and French. She's the author of 29 Leads to Love, which is the 2022 winner of the International Book Award for Contemporary Poetry. And she was also the 2012 recipient of the Feminist Economics Rhonda Williams Prize. And it's an award that recognizes feminist scholarship and activism in the spirit of the African-American economist and advocate, Rhonda Williams. Salimah, thank you very much for taking the time to join us. And it's lovely to see you as always. And then I would like for you guys to please, wherever you are in the internet universe, to welcome also to your screen, Siza Nkosi. Please welcome Siza Nkosi.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sanwana.
There you are.
Thank you for having me today, Roman.
Siza, there you are. How are you?
Yes. Oh, can you hear me? Oh, okay. Yes, I'm
yes,
great. Thank
of course.
you. How's everyone doing? Yeah,
we're good. We're good. Thank you. I just want to tell the world about you, those that don't know. Siza is a poet, children's story writer, and a creative writing lecturer at Salt Lake University in Kimberley. Raised in Soweto, she facilitates poetry and jazz sessions through her NPO, House of Siza. Her debut poetry collection, Ugrand Malume, was shortlisted for the Ingrid Jonker Prize 2024. Siza has authored 9 books with Oxford University Press, including Isigolo Senjabulo and Usibenzile Ntando. She serves on the culture sector community for the South African National Commission for UNESCO. Welcome, Siza, again. Good to see you.
Thank you, Quaz. Good to see you.
Hi, also,
yeah.
Then, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like for you to please welcome to the screen Sub Kabelo Mofokeng. There we go. Kabza is joining us.
Hello. Hello there. Yeah, how you doing? How you doing, Quaz?
There we go. The anxiety is killing me. I'm doing good.
Hello, everyone. Salimah, Cesaro.
Hello.
I'm here.
Thank you for joining us, Kabelo. I was just introducing everyone. Lovely. Kabelo is a Sowetan-born poet, a seasoned photographer with a deep love for music. He's the author of Hungry on Arrival, which was published in 2023. He's also a graduate of a creative writing course offered at Rhodes University. He has published poetry, prose, photo essays in a number of Pan-African literary journals, as well as written and produced the play Taxi Poetry in 2003. This also includes a self-published volume of poetry and photographs, Black Pen Volume 1, which was published in 2007 with drawings by Wesley Pepper, the amazing artist Wesley Pepper. Moreover, he has also curated spoken word, multimedia performances, as well as interactive photography exhibitions within the township areas and in major Afropolitan cities as like Johannesburg. Kabelo has done quite a number of exhibitions, and these included Easterly Lying on Orlando. This is in 2003. Names in Uphill Letters. This is in 2001. That's an amazing name. Fifiela, To See with Difficulty, 2010. Red Ants, Conabri and Harrison Photography Exhibition, and a notable film and music titled Shwababa, The Music of Nkito Kaba. In his own words, Kabelo says, I believe poetry like jazz allows one to knock on the void of silence. Damn, that's beautiful, Kabelo. Amazing bio as well, and really honored to have you here with us, brother. And then, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, I'd like for you to please welcome to the screen also Ayanda, Billie. Please make some noise, bang on the table, click your laptop. Let's see if Ayanda joins us. Okay. Okay, when Ayanda joins us, we'll continue. So that's one we can put in the holster for now. Well, firstly, thank you very much, Salimah, Kabelo, and Siza for joining us. As I was explaining to everyone off screen, the festival theme in particular is based around Dennis Brutus's poem "Somehow We Survive," and in interrogating and talking to what is it that has made this poetry thing in South Africa in particular survive? A very curious name kept popping up, which was Botsotso and the work that Alan does. And it was interesting for us as well that the collections that most recent collections published also by Botsotso was that of U3. You know, Salimah, you did Igoli, Siza, Malume Ugrand or Ugrand Malume, and Kabelo Hungry on Arrival. And it's I have had the pleasure of actually reading all three of them, and I must say, one, you guys are poets. You are amazing poets, and I think the text in itself is such a beautiful carrying forward of Botsotso's legacy in terms of how it excavates and extracts ideas and represents us right back to ourselves. But before we kind of get into all of that, I want us to maybe just start with a poem, please, in particular from these collections that were published by Botsotso. We will start with Siza, if you don't mind. If you could perhaps read a poem from Ugrand Malume.
Sure, Quaz. I'm randomly selecting poem works today. Things I don't like. 1. The bloom of purple in Kimberley, in Cleo's vanilla scent. We met last night under the sunlight, planting lavender seeds, singing, but ipogo zase Kimberley, uzizo moyeni. Malume's bones are buried inside my spirit, like Cecil's inside his bronze self on horseback. There's on some road in Rhode Island bordered by Du Deutschspan, sorry. 2. The sky in Kimberley is pure. X calls me at 3:03. The moon is pink. White birds draw a heart in the sky. 3 white birds on each side of the moon. Silence falls. I feel it in my womb. The night bird swallows the barking dog. The sun in my savannah is dry. A liter of water is 14 rands, 40 per liter. Potholes, the big hole. There's no shortage of hellholes. And thank you. But I also just wanted to say, Quaz, you know, on that intro, thank you. Congratulations actually to Pototo and to Sarah Lubala for winning the Ingrid Jonker Prize for this year. So just wanted to say Big ups, yeah. To both Potato and
It just
Farah.
doesn't stop. That is amazing news actually, and um, a great reward for the amazing work that goes into really the collections that Pototo is publishing, you know. Okay, great. We're gonna come back, Siza, because there's some interesting questions in particular that I want to pose to you, and maybe also some context that you can create for some of the listeners around the title of the poem, and also just the themes in there. But Salimah, can you please read a poem for us from Igoli Igoli? There we go.
Thank you. Thank you, Siza, for starting us off with a city poem. Let me continue from there. This is a poem that I haven't presented yet since this book has come out and was launched in Josie in June. Counterclock Clock. Saturday, along a road back to Africa from the northern suburbs, after the used car shops, OK Foods, RT Internet, ShopRite Liquor Shop, Curry Den Fast Food and Supermarket, South African Police Service Sophia Town, multi-color boulders, a park teeming with women, children, bedsheets swathed in sunbathing clothes. Stop over Africa, Invest Auto, We Pawn Bikes, Divine Muti Shop, AMG Halal Takeaway, Bamenda Boy Auto Body, orange pyramids tilted against red crochet onions, puffy green bushels not grown in ShopRite or Bismillah Market, sweet potatoes half the arm, marrow thin man writhing to bellowing beats. If you turn the other way, broad avenues, Arthur Matthews Primary School, Baker's Paradise, Gondwana Environmental Solutions, Rhodes Park, McDonald's, Drone Valley, Angelique Cook Sisters, Mkonto Manufacturing, Florida Hills Veterinary, West Rand Oncology, Play School Academy, Chicken Licken, Wheelchairs on Run, Golf Club Terrace, Florida Fire Station, Modise Computer College, Lexus Security.
Thank you, Salimah. Mapping through poetry, locating and finding. Beautiful. I love it. I think we have Ayanda Billie with us. Ayanda, are you there? Can you perhaps join us? Okay, there we go. I think we might have him. There we go. Ayanda. You good? Can you hear us? Okay, we'll give Ayanda a second to get himself sorted that side, and then I'll introduce him to the world. Kabelo, thank you again, big man, for joining us. Do you mind please reading and opening up for us with a poem? Think you are muted, Kabelo. Can we try now, big man? I think you were muted.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
There we go. Perfect.
Is that fine? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. We good?
Yeah. You can hear me?
Yes, sir. We can.
On Hungry on Arrival, explore themes around migration. Migration, whether it's movement of people from one place to another, or an alternative space that perhaps music can induce, and perhaps transpose. So I'll share just one of those. So this one is titled Petros Petros Ngwana Mashaba left Margaret Angelina in Makondiland, a forgotten village on the outskirts of Tzaneen, to walk Ted, a Steffi on the banks of West Dean Dam. Patrao Ngwana Mane Flirtatious Kitchen Girls calls this Mshangan. A pitch black Plasi comes to Josie-eyed Prats Mark.
You've muted yourself again, big man. Just careful with the mute button there. There we go.
Okay, so I'll take it from here.
Please do. No, you've muted yourself again, Kabelo. I don't know what you're doing. Every time you start the mute the button, the phone seems to mute itself. It's fine now.
Oh, okay. Am I back on? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Kitchen dance. Call this Mshangan. Pitch black Plasi comes to Josie-eyed. He praats makkelijk Afrikaans. He avoids the rotten sun. He sits under a jacaranda, likes a best blend of boxara. Garden boys of Victoria Road look on with eyes of envy. Ted is a mansebra. Come summer or winter, front seat preference. Petro dizzy state rush inside the belly of Gauteng Maboneng. Petros Ngwana Mashaba packs a sack full of fruits from hard labor, buys chocolate cake in Bramfee Confectionery. Baby Angelina received 3 distinctions. She treads 20 Ks medical food to school. Yeah, baby Angelina is going to be a lawyer. He can't wait to embrace the love of Lumfundisi. When will he return home, Margaret? A black robe occupies traditional side of the bed. There are no lights in this town. Must be a figment of my Petros shadow. Petros Ngwana Mashaba never stops asking for friendly advices from tertiary scholars living in a student village in West Dean. Customary law has been flawed. All the witches in the village go to church. Something sound snapped in him. Sifebe samusad asintswele kamuthi. Thank you.
Thank you, Kabelo. Beautiful. I love that all the poems explore space and place and the people that occupy them and the energy that occupies them. I don't know if you guys had a powwow before this, but they beautifully seem to be responding to each other. Siza, I want to just go back quickly to and if you are
Okay.
willing to share this, because I remember we had a conversation around the title of your collection, and
Yeah.
when you explained it to me, the idea of loss and uncertainty, but also the holding of memory, right? And the persistent sort of question that lingers. Can you please explain to our audience the title of the poem, but also the title poem, I guess, U Grand Malume, and where that comes from and why that title?
Okay, no, thanks, Quaz. The title Ugrand Malume is actually a way of greeting where I come from in my hood. Like when you greet, you'd say Ugrand Malume, like as in, are you okay, uncle? So it's a question, it is a statement, because uncles are not okay. But uncles are
Mm,
okay, but they are our uncles and we love them and they do have a history. And in the context of the book itself, it was, I was thinking about Nje, the uncle in the context of, the history of apartheid. My uncles were part of the liberation struggle um, of the youth in 1976, and they disappeared and died, in foreign lands. So that's why they're not okay, but they are okay, like I say, because we love them, and it's the way we check
mm,
in with it. Yeah. It's just a check in, I suppose. Yeah, to answer that. Yeah, and also just trying to find accountability because we are talking about this yesterday in the panel shared by Vangi, just how poetry is reflective of our realities and is able to show
right.
us the reality, around us. So the statement also, I suppose, would make you think about, are you okay? Or are okay?
Yeah.
Either way, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoy the idea of checking in with those who generally are, and we say this in jest, but are considered an irritant in our lives, right? Like that uncle, like my uncle, are you really good? And the question is so loaded in the context of where we come from and what they went through. I think it's a beautiful way of also holding your
Mm.
drunk uncle and saying, I know why you're here. I understand.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we also, yeah,
Yes. Oh, sorry.
yeah,
But the most important element, and I think you know, in the spirit of healing, of the festival, this poem is also just a way of bringing my uncle's spirit back home. Since
right.
they've disappeared foreign lands, because I believe poetry is a prayer. Said that again yesterday, and it's a way of
Mm,
bringing the spirit back home through memory and
yeah.
remembering. Yeah, in these little poems. Yeah, it's great.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much,
much.
Caesar. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Salima, I want to talk about. I had the pleasure of reading Igoli, like many times over and over, and I mean, I think I shared with you personally how I thoroughly enjoy the idea of bringing this thing that we live in, this geographical space, to life by referencing and finding meaning and finding souls that occupy those spaces. Can I ask you to explain to our audience what is the intention behind writing a piece of writing specifically like this that is so grounded in space, but also so universal in the happenings that are happening in the space, and then in particular also just your relationship with Johannesburg and how that has translated into poems that now exist in this striking collection, Igoli.
Thank you, Quaz, for reading my book so many times. Maybe you've read it about as many times as me. I think there's a real Josie presence here, which is great. And something that came from Gabelo's intro, I think, was the word Afropolitanism. I think that's a great word to describe Josie. And I've been using the word cosmopolitanism because we don't tend to identify Johannesburg as a world city, but it is in fact a world city, like any other big one in Europe, which is what we tend to point to and focus on. So I wanted to bring that out in this book, and I felt it living in Johannesburg for 9 years. I felt it in the places where I could walk freely, the places where I couldn't, the places I had to find a way to get to that was safe for an outsider, for a woman. And in the places where I could walk freely, I really noticed the trees of Johannesburg. One of the first things that my employer told me when I landed in Joburg was that, yes, here's our city, Johannesburg. It's the greenest city in the world. And I thought, well, okay. I had been to Joburg before and I hadn't noticed that, right? Because you don't see that in Guatemala, you don't see that in Soweto. So clearly, you know who was saying it. And I thought, well, now, why is that? As I was walking, why are there so many trees? We are in the savannah. That's unnatural. So I wanted to also, in this book, explore the story of those trees, which is really the story of colonial settlement, of conquering of the natural ecology, and then even find out through research, right? There's a lot of research in this book. I say 76 footnotes for 110 pages. So what were the trees? What were the trees that pre-existed? So many trees from all over the world that have been imported. And what was the meaning of those trees? What significance did they have for medicine, for culture more broadly? So those are some of the themes I'm getting at. There's also poems in here that are fully in italics, and those are stories of Joburgers who graciously told me their stories and allowed me to use them. So I wanted to shed some light on the people of Joburg, which I think, more than the trees, are the heart of the city and the hope of the city.
Correct. Beautifully
Thank you.
put, Salimah. Yeah, I was actually having this conversation with one of the participants yesterday about Johannesburg and the invasive trees, and I sounded so knowledgeable. And I know I read that from you in that book, actually. So thank you. It's also beautiful how the many things that we sort of live in and live past sometimes need to be explained to us or pointed out for us to sort of have an understanding of what it is that we are living in and living past, and Johannesburg, that is the pitch that they sell to everyone. It's the greenest city in the world, but I think there's also a beautiful lens that you as a poet use to say, yes, but why, and what is this a remnant of, and are we aware of what it means in terms of colonialism and, like you said, sort of ecology apartheid almost, for lack of a better phrase. Billie, Ayanda, Billie, I'm so happy you are here. It seems like we have you. Welcome to the session. I would like to formally introduce you to all of our listeners and our watchers across the world. Thank you for joining us. Ayanda Billie is a writer and a poet born in KwaNobuhle, Etenaga. He founded a local book club and is the co-founder of Mandela Bay Book Fair. He holds a master's in creative writing from Rhodes University and has published 3 collections of poetry: Avenues of My Soul, Umhlaba Umanzi, and KwaNobuhle Overcast. His poems have appeared in Numsa News, New Coin, Carapace, Kotas, Tembila, and his English collection, KwaNobuhle Overcast, won the South African Literary Award in the poetry category. Ayanda Billie, it is such a pleasure and honor to have you here with us. I hope you are doing well. Please say hello to Siza, Salimah, and Kabelo. Just unmute yourself and then we get, yeah. Click on the mic. There's a little mic. The minute it goes white, then you're good. I think it should be red now.
Maybe this technology is muting us for us.
I think that's what's happening. Kabelo at some point seemed like he had no control over his mic there, and I know he wouldn't have done that to himself. Okay, we seem to have lost Billie. Okay, hopefully he can in and join right back in again. Very interesting observation, Salimah, and also I just want to link back to, again, the process of writing this type of collection of poetry. Like you said, so much research goes into it, and very meticulous research as well in terms of figuring out what am I saying, how am I saying that. What is the process of taking all that boring data and then making it into a beautiful poem, and all the sort of editorial process when you hand over the manuscript to someone like Botsotso? How do you manage taking fact and research, sort of quantitative or qualitative data, and make it read as beautiful as your poetry always seems to do?
Thank you, Quaz, for that question. And before I answer, I want to put a plug for your poem that responded to a photo and a poem in my book. And it is this photo here. Oh, the designer put in this photo of me with Brenda Fassi when she, in the last place where the statue was found in the city, which has been moved. And Quaz picked up on that to speak about Brenda Fassi's hands and our hands on the statue and really our imprints on the city. And you still owe me that poem, Quaz, because I think we need to publish your poem and my poem side by side. On to the research question. So it actually starts differently from what you described. The poems start from your feelings of the city, what you're picking up as you are living in the city, and then you put questions which you start to research. So that was the order for me, and I must say that this story of the trees, I was taking the notes and writing the footnotes into the poems, but it took a while for me to understand, okay, what is the subtext of these trees? Why is it appearing repeatedly in the collection? And then I formulated the understanding. So I think, like much learning, it's through experience that we really can go deep into an intellectual process and not the other way around. So the more open we are to feeling, which is what poetry and poets do best, the better our research can be. Now, how do you negotiate that with a publisher Very good question. Because not all publishers of poetry will tolerate, right? So a lot of my poems, I send straight to Poetry Potion for publication, not because, it's a big name and everyone knows it, but because Poetry Potion wants those messages. And I feel the same way about Botsotso. So when Siza talks about Malume, who disappeared during apartheid, or when I talk about, no, I need footnotes in my poems, well, then many publishers will simply say, no, that's not what poetry is. And I can tell you, I got that answer about this book from some very well-known publishers in this city. And at Botsotso, it didn't end.
Did you tell them you won an award for the last?
Pardon? Oh, I told them. Yeah, the awards.
I'm saying, did you tell them that you won an award for the last book?
Yes, the International Book Award for Contemporary Poetry doesn't matter to these people, particularly white South Africans.
Yeah.
No, they recognize their own awards. That's it. So particularly if you're racialized. Now, I really engaged that publisher with a lot of back and forth on paper. I took the moment to do that because I knew many poets wouldn't. But when I got to Botsotso, of course, we have a great, sympathetic, activist Malume there, who's the publisher.
Right.
But there were still debates. There were debates. And you have to stand your ground. Any other politics that we do. I think when we got to the design stage, there was a really strong connection with the designer. And, this is how we got this cover. She thought these are photos I took in the city. And then I just sent them to her. I didn't know what was going to be done, but she decided what to put where, and even to have the poems, the photos in the book. And so there was a strong connection on the political and the artistic side. And there again, it is because of Botsotso that I met Vivian, the designer. Those are connections from years back. Political, social, and friends, So this is how we survive. We survive by finding each other. And, it took me 5 years to publish this book. It was ready 5 years ago.
Wow. Yeah, it had to run. It had to run its course and wait it out until the universe was ready to accept it, and you had a publisher that was understanding enough of also what it is that the text is doing and attempting to do and fighting through to do. But apart from that, I feel obviously, Salimah, I have such bias when it comes to your work anyway, because I'm such a big fan of it. But this collection in particular, I think, just is a beautiful way in which a poet, example of how a poet can shift their gaze and hold up a mirror to a different part of us that we haven't necessarily seen before, So I thoroughly enjoyed reading it. And then Siza, coming to you, obviously we've known each other for years around the performance space, in Johannesburg, earlier years on when you used to walk around Newtown with a guitar. And I'm interested in also your transition from that space in particular, that performance space, to writing for children, writing in our languages, and most importantly also finding a place for this collection with all of the other writing that you're doing, finding a place for this collection with Botsotso and sort of how you ended up there. Can we perhaps speak to when did that transition happen for you? Like when when you decided this is probably the best way in which I'm gonna be active. I don't need to be on stage everywhere every weekend in Johannesburg, which was also, I guess, one of the curses that we had. Hyper visibility and always attempting to be everywhere and in every space. But you found a beautiful way of existing in children's books and in children's minds and in elsewhere. So can you perhaps talk us through that process for you and that decision making?
Yeah. I mean, for me, Quaz, Ukraine Malume was born during my master's program at Rhodes. So it's my thesis. And I mean, it took some time to just sit down for a while. Like it's been really like Salimah, but just developing in other ways. But I'm mentioning that aspect because for me, it was through the program that I was even introduced to poets like Isabella Mutadinyane, who was published by Botsotso. And Botsotso, I think, played a
Yeah.
very critical role in the South African poetry space in that it allowed new voices, both performance, poetry, and just allowing other realities to exist in the South African literary conversations. And in that journey, even Isabella Mutadinyane, for example, became like one of my spiritual poets that I go to now and again, my inspirations, my language warrior, my domestic poet, because she also wrote during a time that was very masculine in the country. When we think of what the country was fighting for, it was, we always think of it as men going into war and dodging bullets and getting arrested, that kind of stuff. But and that's what I try to do with the collection also, to just remember the other aspects of our healing after the traumas, and especially in the township space. Um, so actually, that's where the writing for children developed as well. After realizing that my language matters, my Zulu from Soweto matters because I am born from the township. It's Amakaya Wami as much as there are Amakaya in Natali. And also I do play around with the language, how it manifests itself as well. Because there are poems here where the Zulu is quite grounded and speak to my understanding of life and being in the rural sense, but also in the urban spaces. But yeah, just my and access to literature for me, because usually language becomes a barrier for access. So music and poetry is my way of making the form accessible, yeah, in a way
Yeah.
that really honors the art of writing and the power of writing and why we write. And so I don't know if you wanted me to talk about also the process of getting it published was interesting because I even had to add a glossary, which I wasn't sure about because I felt like, Mara Allen, I don't know English and I wing it. Okay, I figured that poetry is the language. Why should I, put a glossary to accommodate people the babs? But I decided to use that also as an opportunity to teach about the layers in of our languages, how layered they are, and my current understanding, which is a reality which matters. So that was also interesting. I mean, so many poems had to go. So many poems
Right.
had to go, others had to change, others came in, and it was a back and forth like kind of process. But I think for me, I at some point I really just appreciated the space. I mean, it's the photo, it matters to me, it mattered to me a lot that I was published with them. And I had to respect the editors and trust the editor's eye into how he knows what he's doing. But also Alan is very Alan was very respectful, and there was a conversation. Nothing was forced down anybody's throats, you know. Yeah. Interesting process.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always a good thing to have a gentle tug and pull between editor and wrestle over ideas. But the worst feeling is when they say this poem is not making it, get rid of it,
Yeah.
and your heart goes home bleeding, and you realize that you're gonna have to trust the process, right?
Yeah. Yeah, man. um,
So yeah, it's I think it's one of those things as well. You know, you cut off some of the limbs so that the tree can grow better and that the tree itself
yeah.
can present itself better. And sometimes bits and pieces of branches aren't necessarily necessary. You know, Kabza.
Mm-hmm.
So we've just been talking specifically around the themes that hold together these collections, but also just your interaction in terms of arriving at a final script for your book. Um, your language is photography, visual photography. You are a jazz man. You are, very reminiscent of what I'm assuming Sipos Pamla and what they called the Soweto poets back then would have been like. You know, this visceral, visual representation of township life. But like you said, also the way in which we move. Migration in particular plays a big role in this collection, right? Or is a holding theme for a lot of the poems in particular. But how did you one arrive at Hungry on arrival, because it's reminiscent, like I said again, of like very much a Mafika Gwala type of title, or Wopko Jensma, for instance, and also just the process that of you taking this work, handing it over to the editor and saying, there's a language that I speak as a poet, as Kabelo Mofokeng, that I need the editor to understand or to hold. And when I read through the book, I'm like, I know this language, I know this voice. This is Kabelo coming through 100%. How do you maintain that and also, arrive at what would be the final product, which is this beautiful collection of poetry that you've published, Big Man?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Am I clear?
Yes, sir, we can.
Hello? Can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking about it, Quaz. So there's two processes involved. There's two processes involved. So the one aspect is that, there's two processes. The one is the writing process. So when you write, you just go mad. That's your creative space. You go mad
Right.
and put words on that, and it's just the whole sort of painting of the work. And then the second process is then building a book, which is very different. However, it also requires a sense of creativity as well. So that aspect, it's the building of the book. That's when you sort of incorporate other people who perhaps believe in your vision, um, in terms of developing the final product, but not just only the final product as in like the book itself, but also perhaps engaging with a community of people that you want to have a conversation with, and maybe those who may be interested coming from elsewhere. So that was why I had to sort of go to Pototo and thinking around, what the kind of people that they have around, people who they publish mainly like literary journals, which encompass various forms of writing from essays. So, and I think that's what I had in mind when I was thinking around what kind of a book do I want to actually publish. A book that represents all these aspects, all these elements, all of these sort of multidisciplinary kind of practices that one is engaged in. And obviously Botsotso, I mean, I can go on about Botsotso. I mean, they come from a cusp of the end of Staff Rider, then Botsotso comes in. And
Right.
these are spaces that influenced me highly as a growing poet in the city, because it was very difficult at some point. It was very difficult to access like individual collections of these poets. Others were out of print or banned, or so literary journals were very important to kind of access material. I mean, Botsotso itself, like it had like Abos Piokangwe, Nyabo Praik Mbulene Kamela, who, as Siza has rightfully said and mentioned, how their usage of language, it speaks to a child who grows up where I come from, So that space was very important. So Botsotso, I mean, now that I've published with Botsotso, maybe I could think around going elsewhere. But also, what is interesting was because I also went through the same program with Siza at Rhodes. Like it seems like most of the English writing, it came from through that course, as opposed to that other stuff that we'll do, like maybe when we were at Hora Cafe, which was more multilingual, which was more in the city, which was more playful, and geez, like you could be talking about a hawker in the street, or women selling fruits on the side of the road, and that's like the city.
Right.
That's like the city, and I think also when I think about the aspect of migration, like the book itself is represented in the various languages that are like, and all of these languages that represent the aspect, the theme of migration. But without deviating, going back to this aspect of publishing, I think for me, Botsotso, first of all, I've had a long relationship with Botsotso. Done like published so it's more like a stable. I mean, I get to meet Salimah as well, who is a different poet from Siza and other poets that I've met through Botsotso, and yet so beautiful and
Mm. Yeah. I think we lost you at the end there, Kabza, but beautiful. Two processes, the writing of the book and the building of the actual book. That's beautiful. Salimah says the creativity comes first and then you justify it with the research afterwards. Siza says we take what we know and we throw back and we hold memory and we ask, how do we hold our language, and in what language do we say we love and we care and we think about you? Unfortunately, we did not have a moment to talk to Ayanda Billie. He's been having issues logging in, but I would like to encourage you to also please go out and read and buy his books. If that's why you tuned into this. Thank you very much for your insights into Igoli and what went into it. Hi, Siza. Sorry, you got your hand up.
Oh yeah, sorry, man. I was trying to say Ayanda is on WhatsApp. He'd like to speak, so if it's okay, I'll put him on loudspeaker and hopefully you can hear him. He's on right now.
Yes, of course.
Ayanda, you alive? Say hello.
Please.
I've been trying.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to allow me. My name is Ayanda Billie, born and bred in the township of Kwanabuse in Utnik, what is known now as Kariecha. We changed the name to the indigenous name. It is now called Kariecha. I started writing poetry when I was in high school. I was inspired by Ingwapelo Matingwa.
wow.
One of his poems is Africa My Beginning, Africa My Ending. Hey,
Okay.
I was watching it. I was watching this documentary. There, this man came. Africa My Beginning, Africa My Ending. Since that day, and after that, I think someone gave me his book. I was in a meeting, he gave me his book, and after that I met Utaruton Matera. And then the story of poetry goes on after that. And I met Robert Perold also when I think I was still in high school. I used to go to Grahamstown. And then I think poetry has been with me since then. And I've been published in New Coin, in Timbela, in local newspapers, and also in some sites that promotes and publish poetry. Yeah, that's my life. And also I write in isiXhosa and also in English. I'm also a translator. I've just translated also in Wadiga Kamanaka to isiXhosa. And that's what I do. Is poetry. It's part of my living, except for where I work. I work as a factory worker at Volkswagen in the plant that is in Korea.
Okay. But Ayanda,
How about a poem then? How about a poem?
yes, can we please have a poem?
A poem, okay. The first poem I will read is from my collection of poetry that was published by Deep South. The poetry collection is called Ikwanobushe Overcast. It was published by Deep South 2019, and it was a part of my thesis when I was doing my MA at Roodt University. My observations about the life in the township of Kwanabush. The first poem I will read is called A Primer Stove. Primer Stove. Even today, each time I enter the kitchen of my grandmother, I'm struck by the smell of paraffin that still flows through those walls. Even today, each time I see the primer stove in the window of Daj's shop at Durban Street, I'm fixed to its glare as if it's saying something. Even today, each time I see old man Tricha on his rusty wheelchair, I'm still taken by the gift of his hands that once repaired our primer stove. Then we had supper and we licked our plates. And the second one is, if I want to breathe, I've learned to love what I see. It has been like this since I first saw the sun. I have to sleep at night, especially on weekends, beyond the cries and nyaka music from my neighbors, who sometimes rejoice at nothing. Sometimes I have to let go of things I should have stood against. I don't want to be forgotten by history and only to be remembered by the streets of Kwanobushe. In the dark and shining hours, if I still want to breathe, let me love this moment and myself in it. The other poem that, since I'm someone who's also into jazz, and I've watched one of the talents of jazz, Simnawana. I'm a collector of jazz, also sometimes a reviewer to some sites. I wrote this poem after he passed away. Horn screaming to Zimnawan. I feel your horn screaming, Vadzimu, Vadzimu. Where noise is silenced, screams trapped with a note from a bleeding heart, crowded with faces. Ingoma yako, I feel it in the air, combining restless souls in symphonic suits. Mayenzeki intando yakho. A voice moans like a fecal wind, leaving a soul lying on dust. One of many. Zim zim, this way I'm with you. The tears which hide the gathering of clouds. Zimology, in cold silence, your spirit crowds me. Your send songs are the light coming through a sad-eyed black man. Today, I begin to live a brief solace. And then I will read the last one. My shadow. I find stars on the ground, cold. Hear voices wrapped in my head. Trees talking. My eyes follow the motion of birds flying into the clouds. Some never return. Dense mist surrounds the township. Voices of children fading. The streets going to sleep. I abandon my shadow on the street, playing hide and seek with a nameless dog. I'm sat by the sofa in front of the TV. 7 o'clock news. Another death. Nkosi.
We got to hear Ayanda. I'm so happy. Thank you, Siza.
That's called a
I'm so happy that you managed to get him on the phone. And I'm so happy that he managed.
Botsotso
Yeah.
takes over Poetry Africa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Salimah, Kabelo, Mofokeng, Siza, Nkosi, and Ayanda, Billie, for joining us during this session. There were so many other things we could have spoken about, but I think you have touched beautifully on what it is your collections are about, what they speak about, but also the amazing work that Botsotso does and has been doing over the years in terms of legacy and in terms of just carrying forward the literary canon as we keep adding to it and whatever contemporary poets come afterwards. So thank you very much for sharing your time with us. And then also for those of you that are watching, please go get Ugrand Malume by Siza Nkosi. Please go out and get Igoli by Salima Valiani. And then of course by Kabelo Mofokeng, Hungry on Arrival, all published by Botsotso Publishers. And then if you guys want anything by Ayanda, Billie, he's won South African Literary Award, so his books are available everywhere. If you guys have your books, please hold it up so people can see, and then we'll say goodbye that way. So Salimah, please hold up your book. Siza, please hold up your book. Kabelo, please hold up your book.
Thank you. Morning.
All published by Botsotso. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. We hope you have a lovely day, and see you tonight at the official opening here in Durban. Goodbye.